This is the second part from the anime. The following day, Sieg and Lyra informed Lost that they had formed their own party together with Armia, who wanted to repay them for saving her life. In short, Lost and Neresina decided to head to the Adventurers Guild to exchange the Hydra's magic stone. On their way, Lost suggested to Neresina that they take on some quests. As adventurers, their tasks didn't only involve exploring labyrinths and defeating monsters, but also completing quests to gain experience. Realizing how much Lost cared for her made Neresina blush, her cheeks turning red with embarrassment. When they arrived at the guild, Lost and Neresina noticed something unusual. People were staring at them with curiosity. News had spread about how Lost single-handedly defeated the Hydra. Many in the guild were curious how someone like Lost, a healer often seen as weak, managed to take down such a ferocious monster. Aware that others might covet the Hydra's magic stone, Lost warned Neresina to be cautious, as the stone was incredibly valuable. Amid the buzz, an adventurer named Marnell approached Lost and apologized. He admitted he had chosen not to help Lost in the past, even though he was aware of the unfair treatment Lost often endured while being part of the Sword of Lightning party. Marnell then explained that he believed it wasn't his place to interfere, so he stood by and let others mistreat Lost. Hearing this, Neresina suggested that Marnell should kneel and beg for Lost's forgiveness for 3 days and nights. However, Lost interjected, saying that was unnecessary and excessive. With humility, Lost remarked that defeating the Hydra was merely a stroke of luck and that he no longer held any grudges about his past mistreatment. In the end, Lost and Marnell shook hands, and before leaving, Marnell told Lost not to hesitate to ask for his help anytime. Soon after, Lost showed the Hydra's magic stone to Amherst, who was visibly astonished. The stone, coming from such a powerful monster, was already rare, but the Hydra Lost had defeated had mutated, making the stone even rarer and increasing its value tenfold. However, one detail caught Amherst's attention. The Hydra had mutated outside the labyrinth. This was unexpected, as monsters needed vast amounts of mana to mutate, and the largest sources of mana were typically within labyrinths. Aware of this anomaly, Lost asked Amherst if anything unusual had occurred inside the labyrinth. Before Amherst could provide further explanation, her superior, Hansam, suddenly appeared and demanded to know what was going on. Lost and Neresina met Hansam in his office, where Hansam explained that all the strange phenomena happening recently had occurred in the past as well, so it was not a major concern. However, Lost suggested that the Adventurers Guild issue warnings to adventurers to prevent injuries or loss of life while exploring the labyrinth. Hansam, dismissing the suggestion, claimed it was unnecessary and even belittled Lost, telling him to leave the city if he felt scared. Neresina was upset by this, but Amherst explained that Hansam was known for his unpleasant personality, even though he was only the deputy guild master. Curious about the guild master, Mr. Mist, Lost asked Amherst about him. Amherst explained that even the staff had never met Mr. Mist, as all guild affairs were handled by Hansam. Despite his abrasive nature, Hansam was highly skilled at his job, earning him respect from the staff despite their fear of him. Lost and Neresina then reviewed several quests provided by Amherst. They were particularly interested in a quest to slay a phoenix, a monster as formidable as the Hydra. However, Amherst advised against it, warning that the quest was too dangerous for just the two of them. She explained that they would need a fighter, a mage, and a healer capable of casting wide-area healing magic to stand a chance against the Phoenix. Hearing this, Lost and Neresina immediately thought of Lyra and the others and decided to recruit them. The pair then met with Lyra and her group, who agreed to join them for the quest. While shopping for supplies at the market, Neresina was startled when a woman suddenly hugged her from behind. Acting on reflex, Neresina attacked the woman but stopped when she realized it was Ralma, a mage, adventurer, and an old friend of Neresina's father. Ralma explained that she had come to the city at the request of Neresina's father, who was deeply worried about her. At that moment, Lost arrived and was surprised to see that Neresina and Ralma knew each other. It turned out that Ralma was also Lost's mentor. Later, the three decided to go to a restaurant, where Ralma asked Lost to leave, as she wanted to discuss family matters with Neresina. Unexpectedly, Lost refused, stating firmly that he and Neresina were a team and, as such, were like family. He insisted on staying to support her. Lost suspected that Rauma intended to take Neresina back home by force. When Rauma confirmed this, Lost boldly challenged her to a fight. As a result, Rauma created a small fireball and hurled it at Lost, but he effortlessly dodged it. Impressed, Rauma admitted that Lost had grown much stronger. She then turned to Neresina and asked why she had suddenly left home. However, Neresina denied sneaking away, explaining that she had left a letter for her parents, clearly stating that she was going to visit Lost in the city of Marmot. Hearing this, Lost urged Neresina to return home and formally ask her parents for permission to become an adventurer. However, Neresina refused, fearing her parents might prevent her from pursuing this path. She admitted that she had worked hard to follow this dream, even sending messengers to keep an eye on Lost in Marmot. After saying this, Rauma revealed that Neresina's parents had already given their consent for her to become an adventurer. They were simply worried about her safety, and Rauma had come to ensure she was doing well. She promised to report honestly to Neresina's father. Rauma then asked Lost to fetch her a drink, so she could speak privately with Neresina. During their conversation, Rauma revealed that she knew about Neresina's feelings for Lost, especially since she often praised his strength and kindness. Neresina confessed that her reason for coming to Marmot was to help Lost, but in reality, it was Lost who always ended up helping and caring for her. Hearing this, Rauma remarked that Lost had changed significantly, especially since he had stood up to her to stop Neresina from leaving. She added that Lost had changed because of Neresina, and for that reason, she urged Neresina to stay by his side. After Lost and Neresina left, it was revealed that Rauma's visit to Marmot wasn't solely to check on Neresina at her father's request. She was also there to investigate the mysterious plans of the guild master, Mr. Mist. The next day, Lost and the others entered the labyrinth through a portal leading to a region believed to be the Phoenix's nest. Upon arriving, Lyra explained that this area had never been explored by humans before. The prospect of uncharted territory excited Armia and Neresina, who were eager about the potential rewards awaiting them if they succeeded in completing the quest. Meanwhile, Rauma arrived at the guild office and was greeted warmly by Amherst. When Rauma expressed her desire to meet Mr. Mist, Amherst immediately inquired about her purpose and asked for an introduction letter, noting that Rauma didn't have an appointment with Mr. Mist. Too impatient for formalities, Rauma considered using her magic to break into Mr. Mist's office. However, at that moment, Hansam arrived and stopped her, announcing to everyone that Rauma was the legendary mage known as the Fire God. Hansam then offered to hear Rauma's concerns, as he was the deputy guild master. Rauma, already aware of the strange phenomena happening in Marmot, questioned Hansam about it. She remarked that she hadn't visited the city in a long time and had noticed the drastic changes taking place. Rauma brought up the increasing number of thugs becoming adventurers and the mysterious tall, white towers surrounding the city. She speculated that the Adventurers Guild might be behind these changes, but Hansam firmly denied it. He challenged Rauma to provide concrete evidence linking the guild to the presence of the thugs and the towers, but Rauma retorted that she was simply relying on her intuition. Rauma went on to suggest that something requiring the sacrifice of many adventurers might be happening in the city, which could explain why the guild had quietly invited the thugs to join. This, she argued, would prevent scrutiny from others who might question the situation. Not only that, Rauma also added that this might be connected to chaos occurring inside the labyrinth, though Hansam claimed ignorance. Meanwhile, in the labyrinth, the Phoenix began its attack on Lost and the others, launching fireballs that forced them to flee and hide. Realizing they had no choice but to fight, Sieg devised a strategy, instructing Armia to use water magic to damage the Phoenix's wings. As soon as Armia launched her water magic arrow, Sieg quickly thrust his sword into the Phoenix's body. However, the attack wasn't enough to bring the monster down. Even so, Lost noticed that the Phoenix was significantly injured, boosting his confidence that they could defeat it. The scene then shifted back to Rauma, who was discussing the mana enveloping the entire city and the mutation of demon monsters. At the same time, deep within the labyrinth, the Phoenix began to mutate, its already formidable power becoming even more fearsome. Lost and the others grew anxious as the Phoenix began to mutate. Just days earlier, they had faced a mutated Hydra. While they had successfully defeated it, the battle left deep emotional scars, especially for Armia, who had been gravely injured during the fight. The sight of another mutated monster triggered Armia's lingering trauma, filling her with fear. Sensing her distress, Lyra tried to comfort her, but the Phoenix quickly noticed Armia's vulnerability and targeted her. Lyra attempted to lead Armia to safety, but the Phoenix launched an attack at them. Fortunately, Sieg arrived just in time to block the attack and protect them. Sieg then encouraged Armia to stand up, reminding her that they needed her magic to defeat the Phoenix. Determined to grow stronger, Armia resolved to overcome her trauma and rose to aid her friends. Elsewhere, Rauma, frustrated by the lack of answers from Hansam, made her way to one of the mysterious white towers surrounding the city. Using her magic, she began to examine the tower, sensing something was amiss but unable to pinpoint the exact issue. Back in the labyrinth, Neresina tried to fight the Phoenix, but the monster's blue flames scorched her gloves. The Phoenix quickly counterattacked while Neresina was off guard, but Lost acted swiftly to save her from harm. Meanwhile, with Lyra's healing magic restoring her strength, Armia summoned all her power to create a magical ice arrow. The arrow struck the Phoenix, wounding it. At the same time, Sieg prepared to strike with his sword, but the Phoenix cleverly evaded him. Seeing an opening, Neresina attacked with her prana, successfully immobilizing the Phoenix. Before it could recover, Lost swiftly delivered the final blow, killing the monster. The group then celebrated their victory, agreeing that Armia had played the most crucial role in defeating the Phoenix. They praised her efforts, and Armia was so moved by their recognition that she cried tears of joy, experiencing true appreciation from her friends for the first time. After the battle, Sieg mentioned to Lyra that Lost hadn't shown any unusual changes this time, unlike when they faced the Hydra. Because of this, Sieg resolved to continue observing Lost closely. When they returned to the city, Rauma greeted them cheerfully and insisted that Lost treat her to dinner. They had dinner together, and during the meal, Rauma revealed to everyone that Neresina was the only daughter of the noble Analestria family. Upon learning this, Lost finally realized that Neresina was the little girl he had rescued in the past. Meanwhile, in the guild master's office, Hansam informed Mr. Mist about the mutated Phoenix and Rauma's arrival in the city to investigate the recent strange phenomena. Hearing this, Mr. Mist remarked that he might need Hansam's assistance in dealing with these issues. Lost and Neresina later went to Amherst to exchange the Phoenix's magic stone. Initially, Neresina felt dissatisfied, thinking Amherst hadn't given them a fair reward. However, when Neresina opened the pouch, she discovered it was filled entirely with gold coins. As a result, Lost quickly told Neresina to keep it safe. Soon after, Lost left Neresina abruptly, and Amherst noticed his odd behavior, as if he was deliberately keeping his distance from her. During lunch, Neresina suggested to Lost that they rent a house since they now had plenty of money. She imagined sharing romantic moments with Lost, hoping they could grow closer and enjoy their time together every day. However, Lost disagreed, advising her to save the money instead. He then mentioned Sieg's suggestion to form a permanent team after their success against the Phoenix. Lost said he would be delighted if Sieg joined them because he was a skilled fighter. Hearing this, Neresina agreed, saying that what mattered most to her was being with Lost. Elsewhere, a man was performing a puppet show, narrating the tale of a dragon and a knight. The story told of a dragon that awakened every 200 years, bringing disaster, and a knight tasked with slaying it. That evening, they celebrated the formation of their small team with dinner and drinks. When Armia started to feel sleepy, Lyra offered to take her to her room. Sieg volunteered to help, but Lyra declined, suggesting that Sieg should focus on building a better relationship with Lost. Later, Neresina confided in Lyra about her desire to live under the same roof with Lost. At that moment, Neresina seemed downhearted because Lost had rejected the idea, making her think he didn't like her. Lyra, however, disagreed and reassured her that Lost deeply valued Neresina. Lyra speculated that Lost might simply be shy, as not every man appreciates a direct approach. Upon hearing this, Naracina finally understood and thanked Lyra for her helpful insight. Naracina then complimented Lyra as a mature woman experienced in matters of love, but Lyra humbly denied this, admitting she had no experience with romance herself. Meanwhile, Lost was discussing the same matter with Sieg, asking for his opinion. Sieg, unaware of the nuances, assumed that Lost rejected the idea of living under the same roof as Naracina because he disliked her. However, Lost immediately denied this and explained that he deeply valued Naracina. She was the person who had helped him rise from despair and regain his confidence. Upon hearing this, Sieg speculated that Lost might have feelings for Naracina. Lost became flustered, his face turning red, prompting Sieg to comment that Lost wasn't good at expressing his emotions. On the other side, Lyra started sharing her past, recounting how she first met Sieg. Back then, they both lived in the capital and were part of the same party. Lyra, known for her beauty, often attracted the attention of men who sought to be near her, even joining her party just to get close. As Lyra was telling her story, Armia suddenly woke up and mentioned that Margulis also had an interest in Lyra and had tried to approach her. Lyra continued her tale, revealing that one day, while Sieg and the others were away on business, one of the men infatuated with her entered her room and attempted to assault her. Fortunately, Lyra fought back and managed to overpower him. Lyra had initially decided not to report the incident to the Adventurers Guild since she had handled the situation herself. However, Sieg was furious when he found out and immediately expelled the man. Sieg, feeling guilty, left the party and disappeared without a word. Coincidentally, Sieg was recounting the same story to Lost. He explained that after the incident, he was overwhelmed with guilt and decided to leave. However, when he arrived in Marmot, he unexpectedly reunited with Lyra. Although Lyra forgave him, Sieg still couldn't shake off his remorse. Luckily, Lyra understood him and agreed to support him. Sieg then shifted the conversation about Naracina, where Lost confessed that he was actually happy when he learned that Naracina wanted to live with him. However, he wanted to ensure everything was in order to avoid any potential issues in the future. At that moment, Amherst arrived, carrying several important documents about Naracina's background, as per Lost's request. It turned out that Lost had asked Amherst for assistance in investigating Naracina further. The scene shifted back to the puppet show, where the exhausted knight was ultimately defeated by the dragon. At that moment, a princess, known as the Sleeping Princess, appeared, bravely stepping forward to face the dragon. Meanwhile, in her room, Lyra was frustrated because Sieg seemed oblivious to her feelings. During this moment, Mary's daughter, Sheila, entered and teasingly suggested that Lyra might have feelings for Sieg. Their conversation then turned to Naracina's striking blue hair, and Naracina revealed that her hair had turned blue overnight, with no explanation as to why it had happened. Elsewhere, Amherst provided some background on Naracina. Initially, her parents had opposed her desire to become an adventurer. However, something extraordinary occurred after she expressed her dream. Her blonde hair suddenly turned blue overnight. From that point forward, Naracina's parents stopped resisting her wishes and allowed her to meet Lost in the city of Marmot. Upon hearing this, Sieg speculated that Naracina's sudden hair transformation might be a sign her life wouldn't last long, which could be why her parents allowed her to pursue her dreams freely. Amherst then confirmed that Naracina had officially received her parents' permission to become an adventurer, reassuring Lost that there was no longer any reason for concern. After delivering this information, Amherst requested her payment from Lost and departed. Moments later, Sieg asked what Lost would have done if Naracina's parents had continued to oppose her dream. Lost replied that he would have sent Naracina home, but also offered to help her convince her parents if she remained determined to be an adventurer. Back in the room, Lyra praised Naracina for her bravery and dedication, noting that she had given up her luxurious and comfortable life just to be by Lost's side, the man she loved. Lyra admitted that she should learn from Naracina how to approach the man she cared about. Inspired by her words, Naracina and the others brought Lyra to meet Sieg. With a shy demeanor, Lyra confessed to Sieg that she wanted to be his partner. Initially, Sieg thought she was referring to their party, but Lyra clarified that she meant she wanted to be his life partner. Sieg was visibly surprised with her bold statement, but he replied that he would consider her proposal. Though Lyra felt slightly annoyed at his response, she, knowing Sieg well, seemed content with his answer. At the same time, Neresina and the others were spying on Lyra and Sieg from a distance when Lost approached them. He quietly told Neresina that he had something important to discuss with her. Meanwhile, the puppet show reached its conclusion. The princess chose to sacrifice her life to put the dragon into a temporary sleep. As the puppet of the princess fell, it was revealed that she had blue hair, just like Neresina. Elsewhere, a group of adventurers ventured deep into a labyrinth and encountered half-human, half-monster creatures roaming its halls. Realizing they lacked the strength to fight them, they decided to use an orphan boy named Keith as bait. They pushed Keith into the center of the room, drawing the creatures toward him while they made their escape. The next day, Neresina seemed distracted during breakfast with Armia. Noticing her unease, Sieg and Lyra urged Lost to speak with Neresina and clarify everything before anything worse happened to her. Just as Lost was about to approach Neresina, Keith suddenly appeared, his body covered in injuries. As a result, they quickly tended to him, learning that he was a labyrinth orphan, much like Lost. The innkeeper explained that a few days earlier, Keith had excitedly told her about joining a mission to explore the labyrinth with a group of adventurers. Apparently, Keith had always dreamed of becoming an adventurer. Realizing that Keith had endured the same cruel treatment he once faced, Lost became furious. He resolved to teach the adventurers who used Keith as bait a lesson. Soon after, with the help of other adventurers, Lost apprehended and beat them. Though the perpetrators were subject to punishment under the city's rules, Lost chose to exile them from the city instead. Unexpectedly, Hansam condemned Lost's actions, accusing him and the others of taking justice into their own hands and violating guild regulations. While other adventurers protested the guild's negligence in protecting orphans like Keith, Hansam showed no interest and summoned Lost to his office. In their meeting, Lost brought up the responsibility of the Adventurers Guild to protect labyrinth orphans and prevent them from being exploited. He emphasized the bond between orphans and the labyrinth, insisting on the guild's duty to safeguard them. However, Hansam dismissed these concerns, questioning whether implementing such measures was worth the cost and effort. Instead, Hansam again suggested that if Lost was so concerned about the city's safety, he should leave the city entirely. Hansam also pointed out that adventurers, including Keith, voluntarily chose this dangerous profession despite knowing the risks involved. His cold stance left Lost frustrated, but determined to continue protecting those who couldn't defend themselves. At that moment, Hansam revealed to Lost that he was actually Noxum, Lost's old friend and fellow labyrinth orphan. In the past, Lost and Noxum had joined a party to take on a mission. As labyrinth orphans, often seen as weak and useless, they were treated like servants. They were ordered to carry the adventurer's supplies, stand guard at night, and handle other heavy tasks. One day, seeing Noxum struggling with the load, Lost offered to help him, but Noxum coldly refused and told Lost to mind his own business. That night, while they were on watch, the two spotted a group of goblins near their campsite. Lost quickly warned the adventurers, but unexpectedly, the adventurers used Lost and Noxum as bait to escape. Noxum was furious as this was his first mission, and he never imagined that the adventurers' true intention in recruiting him was to use him as a decoy in dangerous situations. Meanwhile, Lost tried to encourage him, and together they fought against the goblin horde. While hiding, Lost explained that goblins typically hunt larger groups, so the goblins would eventually track down the adventurers who had abandoned them. Sure enough, the goblins found the adventurers and attacked them. Watching this, Noxum felt vindicated, believing they deserved such a fate after betraying them. However, Lost disagreed and decided to help the adventurers. At the same time, he noticed Noxum was injured and tried to heal him. Realizing the goblins would soon return, Noxum urged Lost to leave him behind and save himself. Lost refused, declaring that he would never abandon Noxum. He reminded Noxum that someone had once saved him, and now it was his turn to do the same. In the end, they survived the goblin attack, though the adventurers who had betrayed them were brutally killed. In the present, Hansam told Lost that he met Mr. Mist after arriving in the city and learned many things from the old man, eventually becoming his assistant. Hansam then said he wanted to repay Lost for saving his life by asking him to leave the city for his own safety. Realizing that Narasina was the one who had saved Lost from his despair, Hansam urged him to leave with her to ensure both their safety. Soon after, Amherst informed Lost and Marnell about demonic monsters roaming outside the labyrinth and approaching residential areas. Disagreeing with the policies of Hansam and Mr. Mist, Amherst decided to take precautionary measures to protect the residents. She even offered rewards from her own funds to adventurers who could defeat the demonic monsters, surprising many who had previously thought of her as stingy. Elsewhere, Sieg was training Keith and other children in swordsmanship. Narasina also took the initiative to teach them martial arts so they could defend themselves. Meanwhile, Hansam met with Mr. Mist to deliver a letter from the Prime Minister. The letter specifically instructed Mr. Mist to keep an eye on Narasina. When Hansam asked why the Prime Minister was so concerned about her, Mr. Mist explained that Narasina was a chosen one of the gods, or the sleeping princess from the legend, marked by her iconic blue hair. This is the end from the second part of the anime. Moral lesson from the story: never trust anyone with a rare magic stone in their pocket. It might make you famous, but it also makes you a target for fiery birds. And remember, when your hair turns blue overnight, it's probably a sign you're about to live a way too complicated life.